All right, good morning, class, and welcome to week number 5. That is right, week number 5 of your 70. I'm sorry, 70. Your 9407 class, which is your intellectual freedom and its discontents class. As always, I'm your professor, Dr. Jace K. Austin. And today, what we will do is we will go over a brief state of the course update, and then I will just talk a little bit about hate speech. I'll talk about it, say a few things, get you back into your readings, and there you go. First things first, as far as state of the course update, please be aware the main thing that you need to be aware of is that we do have you do have an assignment due this weekend, and that's going to be your exam on the First Amendment. This exam is not hard. Actually, Tony put in a few questions related to the exam in the discussion area, 4 questions about the class. And so I answered those there, but I am going to say a few things here about that too. Yes. The exam is open book or open tab, however you want to say it. So you can begin the exam in a tab and then open up a new tab or a new window. And you can look up the answers if you want. That's totally fine. I don't give a damn. What I want to know is that you understand the material more so than you remember the material, if that makes sense. Okay. So you can look for the answers. That is totally fine. But you're probably going to remember a lot of this stuff. It's multiple choice. It's not that hard. Some of the responses in the multiple choice are even a little silly, so that might even help you out a little bit more. I think the longest that somebody honestly took the last class, the last time that I taught this class, I think somebody took 15 minutes to complete the exam. And that was as long as it took for somebody who just sat down and did it. Now, there was also somebody who, there was somebody who I think like started the exam and then left their computer and then came back to it. So they recorded like this 8-hour completion time, and that's not typical. There's no way this is going to take you 8 hours if you just sit down and do it. Okay. So that is it with that. This class is a elective, so I really don't want to stress you all out in this class with so much, this class is supposed to be kind of fun, and it's supposed to build some critical thinking skills, or at least have you exercise your critical thinking skills. So it's not really meant to test memory and retention so much as to make sure that you can think critically, make sure that you can withstand being around people who think differently from you, and so forth and so on. So that's what we're going through, that's what we're going into, and that is what I'm expecting from you. The other thing, the discussion boards continue to look good. There is a discussion board this week regarding hate speech, and so go ahead and tackle that on top of the exam that you have. And that's pretty much going to do it for the state of the course update. We don't have another sync session until mid-October, so you all are fine there. And yeah, I'll get that. I am working on the other assignment that hasn't yet been revealed yet, and I'll have that out for you soon. Okay, so that's what we have going on there, and from here, yeah, I'm just going to talk a little bit about just a very little bit. I am going to actually, for real, I'm going to keep this one under 10 minutes because there's not too much that I really need to say. I'm just kind of checking in, and then I'm going to look at what you all are saying as opposed to saying stuff myself. But, ooh, and I'm getting stuffed up. Hold on. All right, so hate speech, hate groups, all of this hate stuff. One of the big things that you do have to remember, and this has been mentioned at other points in this class, but I'm going to mention it again here. Again, there's no federal definition or federal case law that actually defines hate speech, okay? And that is very important because, again, fighting words, as you saw in the Chaplinsky case, are defined and that sort of thing. So once you actually have a definition, you can start to build policy and everything around the definition. But there is no federally accepted definition of hate speech. So how do you even build library policy around it? What is hate speech? What isn't hate speech? I frankly don't have the answers to that. And I know that sounds like a cop-out, but I'm just going to tell it like it is. I don't know what is and isn't hate speech. And I'm going to this is an intellectual freedom class, so be prepared for things that might make you uncomfortable. But hopefully this won't make you too uncomfortable or uncomfortable at all. That is my hope. But let's take I'm going to take The Closer by Dave Chappelle actually as an example of is it hate speech. And I have seen people a lot on Twitter, but I've seen some other discussions of it as well. And I'm going to say that there are people that adamantly say, yes, this is hate speech. It's transphobic hate speech. And I've had other people say that, nah, it's comedy. It's comedy. And I've had even other people say that it's not, well, I've had people say that it's not hate speech. And then they don't necessarily say it's not comedy, but what they come back with that isn't so much saying it's comedy, but they're saying he is making a point about the differences in the progress that different social justice movements are making, racial social justice movements opposed to LGBTQ plus social justice movements. And I would say specifically trans in this case. He does talk about the other identities that fall under that that overarching umbrella label as well. But he's mostly talking about the trans community in that Netflix program. I'll call it a program. And so one thing that we are left with without a definition, a federal definition of hate speech, we can't go in and look at something like the closer and determine, yes, this is hate speech, or no, it isn't hate speech, based upon a definition that has been put forth by the government, right? And I think that that kind of leaves us with our wheels spinning a little bit, because what we do is we end up with I would say that we end up with something that could be seen as hate speech. And let's do an estimate and say that half the people who saw the closer consider it hate speech and half don't. What you end up then there is, if you have half the people feeling that it's hate speech and trying to have it, I don't know, taken down by Netflix or whatever the case may be, and then half of the people saying it's not hate speech and defending it, I feel that what that leads to is a lot of confusion and a lot of hatred among the people who are trying to argue these various points, right? Because I think one of the things that I think unfortunately comes with hate speech discussions is when you get people who are defending the speech versus those who are attacking the speech. What you end up with is, something that I think still breeds hate within the people who are making those arguments. They're not having civil arguments. It does sort of yield to people starting to hate people. From my vantage point, people starting to hate people who have opposing ideologies, and so that's why I am very concerned, really, with. I'm honestly undecided, to tell you the truth, as to whether I feel that hate speech should be protected by the First Amendment. I kind of feel that it should be, and I kind of feel that it shouldn't be. But ultimately, what I worry about is that when when hate speech is protected by the First Amendment, what it does is, I think that hate begets hate begets hate. And so I think that can be virulent, and I think that what it can lead to is a lot of factioning within a nation, people living in reality bubbles, information reality bubbles within one society, and in a republic. That's not good, because you can't when you have different versions of the truth in a republic, then basically what you have are people voting on their various altered perspectives of truth or whatever. Everybody has an understanding of what truth is, and then they make their political decisions accordingly, but we can't even agree on a shared reality. So how can we install a shared government, right? That's basically how I see it. And so I look at January, I look at that coup attempt as, and I am going to call it a coup attempt, and I look at that as something that is a result of that. You have people that say that there was no violence at all, and then there are people who legitimately call it a coup attempt, and we can't agree on those realities, and we can't agree on who should be or who is the rightfully elected president, and that's going to get us nowhere. That is going to get us nowhere as a society, except being unraveled and being susceptible to a lot of different turmoil within and susceptible to being taken down by enemies from the outside. So those are my concerns, and yeah, that's just where I am with it. Okay, I am going to go slightly over 10 minutes, but not too much over 10 minutes. We'll keep it at 12 minutes. Here we go. So, having said that, what we are left with when we talk about whether or not hate speech should be outlawed is we are basically what or I should say not outlawed, but not protected by the First Amendment. I think that where that leaves us is it leaves us in a situation where we have to make real judgments as to what harm can be done to people if hate speech is protected by the First Amendment. How does that actually impact people? How does it cause harms for people? Does it put populations at risk and so forth? And then that goes back to the age-old question of what do you prefer, safety or freedom? To those who are willing to give up, one of the founding fathers, I believe, says something like those who are willing to give up freedom for safety deserve neither. I believe one of the founding fathers said that. I definitely didn't pull that quote out of my ass, but having said that, that's where I feel that that's basically where we are with hate speech. Maybe not protecting hate speech would make everybody safer, but it would also make us a lot less free, in my opinion. And then also we are having to look to the government to give us a definition at that point as to what hate speech actually is and what gets included in that. Does the closer by Dave Chappelle get included in hate speech? Do David Duke videos get included in hate speech? When, to be honest, I have actually looked at a lot of David Duke content, and some of the things that David Duke has said in the past 10 years on YouTube, 10 to 15 years on YouTube, is actually stuff that you hear in mainstream Republican circles these days. David Duke has even endorsed a black political candidate before, and David Duke even said that he didn't think that Obama would be any worse than McCain because he felt that McCain would fight a lot of wars on behalf of Israel. So kind of a anti-Semitic thing with David Duke being an anti-Zionist and all of that. So those are some of the things to consider, and I am going to leave it right there. I hope you sped this up. I am Dr. Jace, and whether or not hate speech should be legal, we have a debate later that will decide that case. That's the best I can do. Peace out, and I'll talk to y'all next week and in the discussion boards. Ciao.